I see that people are joining. I'm going to give this one more minute, and as people join, and then we will start. Or I'll maybe start and talk slowly as people join. So welcome everyone to ADOC's Ask the Expert session. We're ramping up towards ECR finally. Face-to-face in less than 2 weeks, and so happy to kick off a European perspective to using and implementing AI. For those of you who haven't joined our sessions before, my name is Ariella Shoham. I'm ADOC's Senior Vice President of Marketing. I will be the moderator today for this session. Some housekeeping items before I jump in to let our esteemed guests take it away. I think everyone is already very familiar with Zoom, but for those of you who are not, there is an option to interact with myself and the panelists through a chat or Q&A icon. I think it's the bottom of most of your screens. This session is recorded. We will be sharing the recording with everyone who's joined this session and also those who've registered. And so please feel free to interact through the chat or the Q&A. I will be addressing these questions, and I may be pulling these up also throughout the session. Again, as the conversation flows, you are all on mute. So again, in order to let our guests speak through this freely. So again, without further ado, I'm very, very excited to hand over to Sanjay Parekh, who's leading analyst at Signify Research, who's been covering this space for many, many years. Thank you very much, Sanjay, for joining us and for leading this panel. And I will hand this over to you to introduce to our two esteemed guests. Thank you very much, and I look forward to a great session.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Ariella. Yeah, so good afternoon, good day to everyone. Thanks for joining us today. As Ariella kindly introduced, I'm Sanjay Parekh. I'm the senior analyst here at Signify Research. We're a market intelligence firm based in the UK, and we focus on the healthcare technology markets. And my area of expertise is AI in medical imaging, and this is a market I've been keenly tracking for almost 4 years now. And I've got this exciting opportunity today to sit down with two guests who are actually at the forefront of implementing radiology AI in their hospitals. We have today Professor Lluís Donoso-Bach. He's the head of CATI, which is the Clinical Advanced Technologies Institute at the Hospital Clínic of Barcelona, and also the former president of Isala. And we have Dr. Martijn Boomsma, and he's a radiologist based in Isala in Netherlands, which is one of the top teaching hospitals in the country. So welcome to our guests. I would like to start off by, start off with Professor first, maybe give a bit of background into yourself and your journey for AI today. What have you, how have you got there? What's been the route? So if you just take us back and take a few steps back and lead us through your journey today, please.
It's you, Martin?
Professor, please.
You and me, okay. So I've been involved in artificial intelligence implementation and maybe in the last 10 years, starting with the support for the breast cancer screening. Then after trying several solutions, not very successfully, probably because of the integration, we started to work in specific user cases and in different parts of the department. And we started to have success. And we recently implemented the ADOC solutions with 3 modules, with this concept of having the solution fully integrated in the workflow and in the workstation of the radiologist. And our experience nowadays is quite interesting and quite good. And we are working together and trying to get some information, figures, and reasons to convince our CEOs, CFOs, etc., how we have to finance and try to demonstrate the return of investment in these cases through the user cases approach.
Fantastic. Yeah, and that's always a challenge, I believe, getting it to the higher levels to more widely adopt AI. Martin, maybe a top-level overview from yourself. Where did it all start, and where are you today on the roadmap?
Thank you, Sanjay. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor to talk about our ambitions and our vision about artificial intelligence. Our journey started about 3 years ago. Well, actually a little bit earlier, because we were very much interested in our own diagnostic performances on certain studies. We focused on pulmonary embolism and C-spine analysis. And then there was this company called AtE that approached us. And of course, there are a lot of companies that approach us almost weekly. But I thought it interesting to collaborate with AtE to start off a trial because we had a lot of experience in diagnostic accuracy studies about pulmonary embolism and C-spine analysis to check out or how this the tools that were available by AtE, how they performed. And well, we have to be honest, the road to partnership with AtE has been a long one. It took us 3 years. Some of the things Professor Bach already mentioned. You have a lot of institutions inside the hospital you have to persuade and have to collaborate. It's something. If a radiologist wants to achieve something in the hospital, you have to have a good condition. It's an endurance race, but in the end you will manage and everybody will profit.
Fantastic. Yeah. And as we can see there from both our guests, radiology AI is very challenging. It's a long adoption process. We're still going, we're in the midst of it. And very contrasting experiences from both our panelists here. From my perspective, I look at the market broadly, and at the moment we're on the precipice of publishing our AI and medical imaging world market analysis, where we size and segment the medical imaging AI market. And we've forecast the market to reach almost 1.35 billion in 2026. So this is a fantastic opportunity for all involved and shows lots of scope for radiology AI. And this is along with a growth rate of 26%. So year on year, there's a lot of growth within the market on a global level. However, there are challenges, and we've still seen the market grow despite these challenges. Between 2020 and 2021, the market grew by more than 70 million. And this was largely driven by commercialization of many of the products that had come to that had gained regulatory approval in the preceding years, including the first wave of Class 3 approvals for China. We also noted a big growth in Europe, and we found that we forecast that revenues had passed the 100 million mark within Europe for 2021. However, this still remains less than half of the US alone. One of the ways we measure revenues is from standalone tools, so solutions such as those from AtE, but also solutions that have AI capabilities that may be deployed via an advanced visualization platform. Another big driver in the market has also been the large amount of investment. And since 2015, we've seen companies raise more than $3.7 billion. Of course, everyone's journey is different and the challenges are there. And it's great to now get this provider perspective. Obviously, we've had a top-level overview from both panelists. I'd like to dig down a bit into the specifics. So maybe Dr. Boomsma, if we could go back to you. If you could take a step back, what were your initial expectations when you started this journey, and how have those changed as you've gone through the process?
Well, in the beginning, we were curious about the diagnostic accuracy, and we're talking about 3 years ago, right? So the world was a little bit different. And over the last 3 years, we have seen papers coming out that have consistently showing that the diagnostic accuracy of a radiologist supported by AI shows higher diagnostic accuracy than both of them alone. But in the beginning we were a bit curious and maybe a little bit skeptic about the benefits of it. But because we had our own figures out there, we came to the conclusion that that this is actually true. So if we retrospectively look at our data, which are all some sort of golden databases, we see that the diagnostic accuracy actually increases. And what that, and I think that was actually also in your report, Sanjay, that what that really means is another thing, right? So maybe you see more, but if is it of benefit to the patient, we do not always know. What we have come across the last 3 years, when we finally deployed the solution and it worked smoothly, is that it gives comfort to the radiologist. Certain solutions within this platform make me sleep better at night when I have to look for a C-spine exam. So it's always nice to have an AI program looking at the images as well and confirming what you're seeing, or sometimes if you don't think the same or you don't see the same things, it still gives you some sort of interaction with this module and takes you let you take a closer look. So and actually especially during my shifts, and I think that I can talk for most of my colleagues, it helps them to give those studies attention that needed the most, or if it's very busy to prioritize certain studies. And I had even one colleague that mentioned to me, Martin, is ADOC still on tonight? Because I will have my duty. So I said, don't worry, ADOC is always on. So just kidding. No, this does. So, but this is really true. This is not something I made up. So over the last 3 years, from a little bit of skeptic, curious, confirmation, to a certain situation that people don't want to be on call without the support of AI.
Thank you for that. And that's a really interesting journey. It really highlights how AI has changed and the value it's now starting to provide to radiologists who almost wanted to be there almost as a safety net rather than having to risk not having it and possibly missing cases. Professor Donoso, I want to shift the perspective a bit. We've seen a slower than expected uptake of AI in Europe, especially compared to the US, and especially in certain larger countries such as Germany, Italy, and even Spain. Obviously, that's not true for your hospital, but what have you done to overcome some of the challenges and some that you've highlighted in your journey to date? And when did you truly start to realize AI was here to stay and you wanted it as part of the workflow?
Well, I have to say that we are talking mostly with the ADOC solution about detection and classification. But the use of AI in the workflow in a radiology department starts with scheduling the patient, decision support for the clinicians to ask for examinations, image processing, which is quite interesting for the technologists to work in image processing. Then we have detection, classification, and maybe diagnosis. We are not still there. I think we started, as I said, 10 years ago, starting with breast cancer screening, helping us in order to get more detection, more easily detection, instead of having 2 radiologists to have one with the CAD system. That made quite a lot of confidence in the department that these solutions could be interesting for specific cases. Then we get into the cranial hemorrhage, helping the people in the stroke unit, not for the more skilled one, but for the residents, the people in shift. Then in our lung section, we went to the nodule detection, patterns detection, the COVID started. So in this landscape and a few other solutions, we learned that some of the radiologists take advantage of this and some others not, because of not the full integration in the information system. When ADOC comes in with a solution, was not very difficult to convince the colleagues, that this could be a good option with the system running seamless in the system and just flagging where the possible problems will be in a specific patients. And then we really manage that. We have very close the IT department, and we have also IT tools in the department. I guess in Martin's department, you have also people involved in the technology. That's also helped. And I have to say that we have a good position at the institutional level, to convince, and we last 9 months, to get the approval with ethical committee, everything. But finally, we are there, we're quite happy. But I think it's a question of culture, movement in the organization, not just in radiology, but in the whole organization, to see this more implemented. I just was reading yesterday or the day before yesterday, a survey published in the Journal of American College of Radiology about the use of AI in US private practices and academics, and it's less than 30%, and most of them related with detection and classification, and a lot of concerns about the autonomous solutions that will provide diagnosis, some of them offered out of the radiology department. I'm sorry for the long. No,
that's all right. Carry on. That's fine. Carry on. Sorry.
No, that's it. That's it. So probably the conclusion is culture change with the colleagues, culture change in the institution, and demonstrate the return of the investment, at least to start working on that with the KPIs of this that would be related in terms of value at the institutional level.
Absolutely, yes. Change management is a big part of getting AI into hospitals, first within radiology, but also getting that wider buy-in from stakeholders beyond radiology. And we will come on to some of these topics and explore some of these topics as we go through our conversation. I just wanted to segue a bit and focusing on the European market. We've had a lot of regulatory approvals over the last few years, but we know Europe is on a precipice. There's a shift in the way regulation is done, and in 2024 we're going to see the MDR come into play, which is the European Medical Device Regulation Directive. And this may affect the market. We may see a stagnation and a shakeout of the market to find market leaders, which might make it easier to partner with. Martin, which way do you see the market moving? Do you see it holding back the market and causing a stagnation, or do you see this being almost a good thing where it would shake out a lot of the part-time players who really haven't gained traction and really focus on a core group of leaders in the space, especially for Europe?
Well, this EMDR regulation thing is beneficial in one way and maybe not supportive in the other way. I think as most legislation issues, it's mostly beneficial for company with big pockets, right? So you have to go through processes to get to approvals. So this is not in the advantage of small startups, innovative researchers. In our department, we have bright minds running around or sitting behind a computer and actually developing AI on the fly, or almost to say it's not very difficult. I think the most difficult thing in AI is not to develop an algorithm and when you have the right databases, but it's more how to get to adoption. And it hampers, this regulation hampers, for example, the application of self-made solutions. But on the other hand, it will drive the market in a certain direction that only those companies that have had the time to professionalize, in the broad sense of the word professionalize in this field, to actually consolidate a part of the market and be a serious partner to the healthcare institutions. So they will really become partner in healthcare. So and I think we came up with some solutions in this, but I think the most important thing is to say that one of the reasons that we decided to partner up with AtE is that we have spoken about this situation. And for example, if we come up with certain solutions, because sometimes you have solutions for minor problems that are not very interesting from a commercial side of point of view, but there are for certain minor solutions for minor patient populations or minor applications very handy that we can use the platform, for example. So, but these are things that are evolving. So to say, to value this situation, I would say moderately positive, but we have to watch out that the big ones, the big fish, don't eat all the small ones, and that it will actually hamper innovation. So we always have to look out that the innovation keeps on going.
Louis, do you agree? Obviously, there's so many vendors, more than 200 plus players in the market. Do we need 10, 15 solutions for a chest X-ray, for a chest CT? What are your thoughts on this?
I think we have a responsibility as healthcare professionals to measure up to these solutions. We have these nice, in the Netherlands, in Nijmegen, we have grandchallenge.org. We see little companies having good databases, gold standards, and we should put them to the test. And I think the best solution should win, and we should partly be the judge of that. So that gives a responsibility to healthcare. There's also another responsibility for the industry, because with all these solutions, and you talked about certain figures, numbers of investments, and there needs to be a return on investment in the end. And we have to, well, I would hope that we feel that we have a common responsibility to keep it affordable. So having 20 solutions for the same problem, this will finally come down to 3, in my opinion, or 4, just like we have 4 big vendors for acquisitions for CTs or MRs. And yeah. So I think this is part, that now we have so many solutions is part of the growing up, and there will be a shakeout, I'm for sure.
Professor, do you agree? Do you think consolidation's on the horizon, and will the EU directive push that forward?
Oh yeah. I'm convinced this is going to happen. From the perspective of radiologists in a department, we need to have people able to evaluate and validate the solutions, because maybe we can have 3 levels of 3 kinds of radiologists. One of them, as probably I am one of them, that do have just experience using the systems, a knowledge in how to validate it, but not so much. We can have people specifically trained to validate algorithms in each one of the division of the sections. And maybe, as Martin was saying, some people interested in developing themselves algorithms. There are tools in the market. I was looking, one from Amazon Web Services is quite easier to annotate and to follow and to create algorithms to diagnose specific problems in an institution. But this can be applied at the lowest scale in academic institutions, especially in the Western. But I think the concept of professionals, clinical professionals, trained and able to validate solutions would be also very important, apart from the formal public validation. But I think for me, it's a very clear trend, and in the future there will be implementing solutions when we have consolidation in the market. For sure, we need that. I used to say that probably not now, but in the last 2-3 years, I was maybe every week, every 2 weeks, a company providing me solutions for a problem that I don't even know that I have. So it's quite amazing. That's a very nice solution, but I'm afraid I don't have this problem. So and there were dozens or hundreds of billions of dollars invested in this kind of solutions. So the consolidation has to be seen from many aspects, and regulation is one of them. But even in our departments, we have to work on that too.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And you raised the point, obviously, developing algorithms fairly easy. I think you both raised the point, and I completely agree. it is deep learning has obviously revolutionized this, and the technology available to create algorithms is out there for anybody to do. I think the challenge is creating a solution, not just an algorithm, and a solution that drives value for the radiologist. That's the big question. And I think that's what a lot of the vendors are, especially some of the smaller vendors. That's what they're still grappling with. How do we get value to the radiologist? And obviously clinical validation is one of the big barriers and big challenges around this. And as you highlight, Professor, yes, we do need that collaboration between the vendors and healthcare providers to validate these tools and ensure that they do work as they say they should, but also deliver the value to the clinician. I just want to move on to another specific question, which it will tie back into this, but I want to know more about what are the drivers that you see for the market? Obviously, we talked about validation being a challenge, getting value to the radiologist being another challenge. As we've moved past the COVID-19 pandemic, we see a lot of companies out there, obviously, more and more providers looking to or turning to technology as a possible solution in the way they run their business. And obviously, as part of technology, AI comes into play. But we don't want AI for the sake of AI. We've talked about an algorithm being almost useless or redundant if it doesn't have that value. Maybe we start, Professor, with you this time. What were the core drivers, or what other core drivers do you see in terms of radiology AI that are helping you decide on what to do, what solutions to choose?
Well, I think we all know, and we are aware of how to have solutions for different user cases. This is quite well known, and we are looking for a kind of seamless approach to the usability of the systems. Some of the companies used to come from one of the big four, that they have a kind of marketplace around and they offer solutions for themselves. Probably AtE is the example for them, but they are not still there. And going with one of the big vendors is not as efficient as we expected. I won't mention any of them, but we tried to do that in the similar way, but it was not as efficient and as and seamless as we expected. Then is another concept with some of the viewers that you have really a marketplace that they offering solutions that you can go in there, surf, and trying to pick up one of them. This doesn't work in my experience. And then you have the AtE approach that comes to an institution, integrates. You have a kind of marketplace because you select some of the solutions and you provide themselves. There is another driver coming in, especially in Europe, where we have regional data sets and PAC systems, regional PAC systems. And we have also pathology, we have genomics, we have patient data consolidated at the regional level. And we have been approached recently for the people in charge of these huge databases in order to provide them AI tools to then provide to the community hospitals in the regional setup. And this is very specific for Europe. For instance, Catalonia, we have a system that is a repository for all of the images in pathology, all of the lab and data from the patients. And we will be funded in the next weeks to provide them solutions in order to get into this regional system, and from the regional system to offer that in the cloud, under the cloud concept, to the different community and users and the whole public health system, which is about 80% of the provision. And this is a completely new field that I'm curious to see how it's going to work, but they seem to be very committed with this kind of approaches.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point. And I think this would benefit, especially the European market, because we have a lot of smaller segments and sub-markets. This more regionalized approach to get better validation on these algorithms to almost help them then become more generalizable in the future as we curate and collate larger data sets. That would be very valuable. And I think, yeah, Europe does have that advantage compared to some other regions. Martin, maybe it would be good to get your take actually on this. What were your drivers on AI?
Well, I already talked about increasing diagnostic accuracy, comfort for the radiologist, but also, and that comes a little bit, that's a little bit an answer to this question, how to tackle the increasing demand on radiology department and increasing demand for more quality and consistency. We see that radiology is kicking in, dense breasts, MRs, prostate MR imaging. We see there will be a huge increment for acquisitions and therefore for reading the films or reading the scans. And the question is in every part in Europe or wherever in the world, is there actually the same availability of radiologists? The answer is no. Is the same expertise equally distributed over the regions? No. Is it of benefit to the patient that everybody looks at certain difficult scans? I think the answer is no. So we see that this that AI could really have would be the cherry on another direction that radiology is going, that we're going to larger regions, maybe the same PAC systems or connected PACs, ventral nuclear archives, and then we can put artificial intelligence on top of them in order that people can collaborate together with support of AI as well to work more efficiently with consistent quality. So I think that all these things come together. So that will be a nice driver, I think, also for the adoption of AI, and even that we can pay for AI, and that there's a return on investment here. And maybe another thing that drives me is that with the commoditization of radiology, that we could also increase the task delegation. So we can move tasks that are now traditionally the domain of radiologists to, for example, the rad technicians, or even clinicians with support of AI. That's for our future, right? But this is I think this will be a natural process that has been going on in radiology. The commoditization of radiology that will also apply to artificial intelligence.
If I can just jump in, because a question came up, but I think it resonates to what you were saying, both you, Martin, and Louise. So you were talking about so there's the value to radiologists of AI, as we were talking about now, but in the end, obviously, we're all trying to get to value for the patient. One of the questions was about the value that clinicians will see with for AI. And I would actually like to bring it to radiology being the center, I believe, throughout, right? Imaging touches the majority of patients, and radiologists have always been there from a technology perspective, and the sort of fulcrum is what we're calling it, right, the center. But maybe a few words about that, like how do you see radiology, and you sort of touched on that, Martin, enabling this both use of AI within the greater health network, but again in this collaboration with additional clinicians. You were talking about text, but additional clinicians, all of this in order to bring sort of a more collaborative value to patients. So maybe a few words just about that. Sorry, Sanjay, I'm sort of going a bit on that sidetrack, but there was a question that just came up, and I thought that was relevant to what just came up, and maybe also Professor Donoso-Bach would like to answer. So maybe I'll let you both take it.
Well, this is a clear tendency in imaging departments, that we're not longer called radiology departments. We're called imaging departments. That includes, in fact, radiology and nuclear medicine, but more and more in our department, we have, for instance, cardiac radiology or cardiac imaging is provided by radiology specialists in cardiac imaging and cardiology specialists in cardiac imaging, not just cardiologists. Similar things could happen in some neuro diseases. Hospitals and institutions are more and more organized in the concept of disease-driven units, prevalent units. So the mixture of different specialties and people interested in imaging is growing very fast. We radiologists, we are in the forefront. We have a clear advantage. We are working that. It's our business model. We know how to manage. And probably we will, if we are intelligent enough or smart enough, we will keep the concept of the business model where we are extremely good and open it to the people, but fully dedicated to imaging. Considering this application of artificial intelligence tools by the clinicians, then we can get into this with the imagers, but dermatologists, ophthalmologists, infectious diseases people. There are many, many people in the hospital working with AI in the last years. And in terms of progressing, we are very much interested in terms of having imaging in the data lakes, data sets, and combine it with other kind of information, because I think for our future and our position in the decision-making process could be crucial. So this is a process coming from organization that AI will be affected, or we take advantage of this relationship that imaging departments we're having. I'm sure in the Netherlands happen similar things.
Good points.
Martin, anything to add?
Well, the word that came up into my mind is emancipation of the clinician. Of course, it will help the clinicians also. When we moved in our new hospital, which is a beautiful hospital, suddenly there were these fantastic screens all over the place. Everybody could look at the scans themselves. We see subspecialists looking at these scans themselves and often call me, Martin, I've already looked at the patient. Can you take a look as well? So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the more people look at things, the better. I don't mind. And AI can also help a little bit here. So maybe prioritize those patients that are in need of certain help. But there's also another thing in AI that we haven't touched here because now we're in the ADOC session, but the scheduling of patients, the referral of patients. I think we can, if we use AI in the right way together with clinical science for GPs, for example, I'm sure we can reduce the referral rate to hospitals by, okay, this is just level 4 evidence, but I mean, this is maybe 20 to 30% less referrals. I think then I'm still at the very safe side of less referrals. So, and I think we have to look, as Professor Donoso-Bach already said, we have to look at the whole image chain. You know, the referral of patients, the acquisition of the scans to the final reading. Now we're looking at, you know, the ATE solution is at the far end of just, you know, looking at the diagnosis. And we have to be fair as well. I mean, we are actually, and I'm touching some skepticism here from radiologists. I mean, this is not a game changer in diagnostic accuracy, right? We're not talking about 20% more diagnostic accuracy. We're talking about a few percent, maybe, in minor findings that are always, not always, we don't really know how significant these findings always are. So, but there are other advantages. I already talked about that, but we certainly have to look at the whole image chain to value the true, to value the true power of AI. And that is necessary as we have a responsibility to see and treat more patients for a little bit more money, but the budgets that are going around nowadays certainly do not allow us to just, you know, more scanners, more radiologists, bigger hospitals. This is not the way forward. We don't have to do the same thing. We have to do something else to counteract the challenges that are before us. So.
Yeah, no, that's very strong points raised there by both speakers, and I definitely agree. Looking at the wider clinical workflow and trying to apply AI to all segments is going to be equally as valuable. Obviously, image analysis remains one of the more challenging aspects, and if we come back to the conversation we were having, and we're talking about the drivers are not without challenges, of course. One of the biggest I see is the lack of reimbursement, especially in Europe compared to the US. So we've seen some evidence of some reimbursement in the US, very specific use cases. Do you feel this is needed in Europe? And what do you think is going to prompt reimbursement in Europe? Or do you think it'll be more of a more nationalized across different countries, and different countries and different healthcare systems will take their own approach to reimbursement for AI in Europe? Professor?
For me, it's difficult to say in public health systems in Europe, a kind of fee for service reimbursement. I don't see that. What we can do, if we really demonstrate that we are more efficient, is to keep in the budgets and then to keep this efficiency to the hospital and to the department. But I'm afraid in the next years, we don't have a substantial increase of the amount of the budgets for the health systems. So if we can demonstrate that we are more efficient to the system, or in fact, we are having some part of these budgets that we can apply to AI. But to have a specific reimbursement, as we sometimes have for examinations, I don't see that. In the near future, at least, I would like to have it, but I don't see that.
Very interesting. And yeah, obviously that is one of the factors which Europe does, or the US has differentiated itself from Europe, where they've started to roll out these reimbursements. Martin, what do you think? Do you think we're likely to see anything soon, or even if it's just for specific instances? I know, for example, HeartFlow does receive reimbursement in the UK for their solution. Will we see similar things for stroke imaging, for pulmonary embolism, say the critical cases which do drive an impact in the clinical workflow?
I think the evidence out there is just not enough. So everybody's doing something. It's not really coordinated. Look who's talking. We are doing the same. I'm not better than anyone else, right? But it would be nice if you could have some sort of grand design. And I know in the Netherlands we are talking about this. We have this health AI document, certain incentive from the Dutch Ministry of Health that says, okay, they acknowledge we have to do something else. They see AI or ICT solutions in general as a means to meet the challenges that are ahead of us. If you look at research in general, a lot of research is done that has little power, enough power, or is not really always of use. And we have to, by consortia, and I think Europe can do this if they put their minds to it, to design those studies that will actually show cost effectiveness. And this has to be done with health technology assessments. And this is not a really sexy thing to do because it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and yeah, well, you have to have a good condition and show a lot of endurance here. But there's no other way. There's this old saying I learned when I do my rotations in the UK. If there's one person in the world that can buy something from a Welshman and sell it to a Scotsman, he or she must be Dutch, right? So, and still make a profit, right? So we are really looking into the money. I think we're internationally renowned for this, but we also think that everything should be available for everybody. And that's a little bit of difference between, for example, United States, they just have something new, it's better, and you just pay for it, right? But it's not always beneficial to everybody. So this is also a challenge. It's something, well, I'm still young. I feel young, 48 years old. So we have time. We just have to put our minds to it. And one problem here is that there was this research out there that 70% of all clinicians don't have a very positive attitude to AI, towards AI. Well, as long as this is the case, right, that 70% of my colleagues think AI is not beneficial in one way or another, you cannot roll out these studies. So there's a natural way of evolving this. And I hope that the industry and its investors behind it also have a good condition and show some endurance, because this is not an easy way, but it's a way we have to travel together.
Thank you for that. That's, yeah, it is a big challenge. And when you talk about together, do you see this as vendors working with providers, or do you see this as vendors working with other vendors? What's the nature of working together?
Mostly people live together because they like each other. No, just kidding. So when you work together, you also have to like each other a little bit, right? So there has to be some chemistry here. If you want to conduct such trials, you need a partner that's strong enough to also deliver, right? So you have to deliver. Maybe should even install solutions to certain places just for the trial, right? So, and you need to get funding. So in my opinion, you should make a consortium, and nowadays in the Netherlands it's very popular to have academics, non-academics, industrial partners, patient organizations, get everybody on board first with this plan, and then do it, because then you also ensure a little bit the dissemination. I think Europe also has programs. It was called Horizon 2020, now it's Europe something, I don't know. There's a new program. It's one of the largest investment grants in the world. And I should think, I'm not high in the European society, but I think the European society, or the USOMI, is much aware of these grants. And I suppose, or we'll ask them or talk about it, that, we should do this something together. I think Europeans can do this, should pull this off. I mean, we have it's like noblesse oblige, right? So we have a responsibility to do it.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. And again, a great challenge. Obviously, lots of stakeholders needed, lots of people and lots of heads coming together to get this, to push this forward. In addition to that, the other challenges still remain, coming more to the specifics around integration of AI. And I think, Professor, you mentioned this earlier in terms of the platform approach. From our perspective, when we look at the market, we see these platforms addressing some of the last mile challenges, which are the deployment, integration, and orchestration of all these different algorithms. From your perspective, do you think these platforms, and they can be of any nature, whether they're from the PACS vendors, whether they're from the incumbent third-party vendors, or even some of the newer platform approaches from the AI startups, do you see these facilitating and helping radiology to scale, or do you think there's another way that radiology will scale better?
Well, this is an ADOC webinar, and I will like to just to express why we get into the ADOC concept. And at the end, we were discussing, Martijn was discussing about how to collaborate industry and academics or other stakeholders. In our case, was a clear interest for both parties. We, as a department, we are interested in getting a position in the hospital, again, a position in artificial intelligence implementation. And together with officer, we developed a proposal, not just was an ADOC proposal, was a common proposal between people in our department, from the technical point of view, from the management point of view, from the clinical point of view, a proposal for the decision-making process in the hospital in terms of get the investment. Now, we have a specific interest, ADOC has a specific interest, we will get the results, and regarding the results, we will see if it works or not works. I don't care if this is one platform or is another platform or is a marketplace, or if it's a startup, or is coming from one of the big vendors. I don't care. What I think it would make the difference is trying to get a common project and then common goals and very clear what is in it for everyone. So, Martin, here in Catalonia, we have the same reputation that the Dutch has. that we always look for the money and trying to sell it. So it's very, very, very Catalan too. Okay. So I would like to focus that this common effort has to end with something touchable and clear, not just in terms of clinical use or probably accuracy. All of this is necessary, but it's the cost-benefit concept or health technology concept has to be nowadays, at least in the forefront of the discussions and in the agreements. And if we succeed, Martin, you can succeed in your organization, and we'll succeed together with one of the vendors, in this case, AtE. It's a kind of political statement I made.
Yeah. But I think,
can I jump in? Can I jump in, Sanjay, on the
yeah,
platform?
I was going to ask your opinion as well. It'd be interesting to
right.
get your take on this.
Well, I made a preparation, with these things that we should cover some topics. I think we covered them all, except for one thing that I wanted to mention. The fact that at a certain point in time where you have a platform installed in your hospital, you have overcome some hurdles. So for example, if there's another company with a one-trick solution, it might be difficult, to go over the implementation process again, because there are a lot of steps, ICT steps, governance steps, in order to deploy the system in the correct way and be consistent with the results and the workflow, etc.
I think, just to clarify, when you say ICT, you mean the information technology steps. So working with IT.
Yeah, we have this safety officer, data manager control. I don't know how many. You have to get all the you have to tick all the boxes, and that's also why it took 3 years to come to a certain partnership, right? So it's not easy. It's not. Some vendors say it's plug and play. It's never like this. So it's always difficult. So I see when you're on the lookout as a department that you want to implement AI, it's good to look at a partner or solution that gives you the platform experiences. So and because also clinicians, when they interact with the AI, they like the same same appealing looks. The same way of working. It doesn't make sense if you have 20 solutions for 20 different problems and they look all different and you have to push different buttons and pop-up screens and whatever. So I think that is a very important aspect that we didn't mention before. That's why I'm mentioning it now.
No, that's a very interesting point. And again, I think that comes into the whole integration of creating that user interface and user experience for the radiology, to make it manageable and to make their workflow efficient as well. Obviously, jumping between, as you say, many different screens, many different, especially even workstations, God forbid, that just makes it more and more challenging. Radiologists want everything in one place and right in front of them. So yeah, we see platforms helping push this market forward, but it would be interesting to know your thoughts on moving beyond radiology, so moving into other ologies, and how will platforms be the answer to bring this together? From our work, we look at certain cases such as stroke imaging and the solutions around them, and we term them end-to-end solutions, where they're looking at a given condition, but addressing multiple aspects of that given condition. So looking at the image analysis, the notification system for clinicians beyond radiology, and bringing a whole team together to treat the patient. Is platforms the answer? Will the lines blur between platform and end-to-end solution, or is there another approach to bring different ologies together to work together? And I'm happy whoever wants to jump in on that, or both.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Martin.
Well, when there's take the stroke, for example, that makes it more easy to talk about. We have this gray button protocol in our hospital, and then suddenly, oh, there's a gray button. Everybody shows awareness. There's a stroke. Maybe there would be an interarterial intervention, percutaneous intervention or not. We have to do a CT of the brain, the perfusion, the CT angiography, and then suddenly there's an algorithm that says there's a stop, and then you can send out notifications to the radiologist or to the clinicians. Personally, I would say there's nothing wrong with sharing information as long as it's a good information. That applies to other areas outside of medicine as well. But in general, that's a statement I would like to make. So if for example, the neurosurgeon, if for example you do an aneurysm analysis, and suddenly there's a notification out there to the neurosurgeon, there's an aneurysm at 2 o'clock at night, and he doesn't have anything to do with it, he will not be happy. So I still see a big role for radiologists to filter the information and guide it to the right persons, right? So that they have to affirm the results, of course. And I think that's absolutely necessary. And so, as Professor Donoso-Bach said, he had a nice word for it, autonomous, that was the word. Autonomous AI is not the way to go.
Yeah.
But I like the idea that I could talk to my clinician and that he has the images available in a widget, for example. So that when I talk to him, I say, I see a stop in the M2 segment on the left, that I can, text him or send me, and now he says, okay, I will log in and look at it. And I'm just saying it because now people will say, but in my hospital, the radiologist is always there. The neurologist is always there. We're always there. And I say, yeah, we're always there, but sometimes we're a little bit busy. So it could help, just those seconds, and time is brain, even more maybe than time is heart. So for example, it's stroke, but we have to really look carefully if it's really beneficial. But we should explore it anyway.
Well,
Professor, just to round up.
Yes, to comment on the stroke concept. We are having a stroke unit in our hospital, but takes care of a region of 1.5 million. And they are community hospital, they are ambulances, they are a centralized system to. And I see more the application of the AI solutions in this situation for the community hospitals, that the people in charge in our hospital, they are neurologists, radiologists, intervention diagnostics, that we are really well trained. And we are exploring the use of solutions fully integrated in this communication and this organization based on stroke. So probably we have to just probably widen a bit the scope of the use, and this kind of networks of hospitals, community hospitals, specifically codes. There are many others, but the stroke I think would be a good example of this.
Thank you for that, and thank you for your insights. I'm just mindful of time, and obviously we're coming up to the hour, so I'm going to hand back to Ariella and see if there's any questions from the audience.
Thank you, Sanjay. So there were questions, and actually, as they were coming up, the team were addressing them. So I think there was a question about reimbursement. I think we spoke a lot about that. There was a question about having radiology as the center and providing value beyond. I think we addressed that as well. There were questions about platform and partnering with one vendor and being able to add if needed, and this concept of again, how do you validate in post-market surveillance. I think we didn't get a chance to talk about that, but I think it's a bit maybe late in our presentation because this was an amazing session. I just want to give both panelists an opportunity to give us some closing remarks, and to everyone else, please continue submitting questions. I will be taking these then offline, and I can address them to our guests on a personal level. So maybe just let you each summarize. I'll start. Martijn, do you want to summarize first, and then we'll let Professor Donoso-Bach conclude?
Well, I would just to say that it's worth to bet on artificial intelligence. From my perspective, it's the future, not just in radiology, is in the health medical systems and the provider's point of view, and for the patients. We will see other adoptions and other solutions for the patients, for the technologies, for the nurses. We would like to be in the forefront of that and to be part of that, not be part around the table, not part of the menu. So I encourage my colleagues, I encourage you want to be involved now, especially now in the beginning, to be around the table.
Exactly, to make sure that we're the ones leading the charge, the radiology departments. Absolutely. What about you, Martijn? What are your final thoughts?
I think there's no other way. It's don't be afraid, embrace. Even if you see it as an enemy, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. No, just kidding. No, it's just I mentioned it earlier. To do the same thing over and over and more is not the way to go. So we should do something else. It's exciting. It's interesting. It also gives you a reflection on your own performances, right? Are you really doing it as well as you think you're doing it? And there's always room for improvement. You should not be afraid. And radiology will be even more center point of attention, powered by AI than ever before. And I would like to thank ADOC for the opportunity to have this discussion. It's not many often that we have the time to have a structured discussion about these things. And I would like to thank Professor Donoso-Bach for his time. And
thank you.
I enjoyed it actually.
Thank you, Martin. Likewise. And this format set up by ADOC is quite interesting, at least for the panelists. I don't know about
for the audience. And it went by really quickly, didn't it? It's an hour. I didn't even get a chance to jump in. So thank you, Sanjay, for handling this so well and being on time. And both of you, thank you so very much, and look forward to continuing this. Bye everyone.
My pleasure.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.